All right, so next up on our program, we have Dr. Carl Rosen, Global Fellow of the HITLAB Breakthrough Alliance, and he's going to be talking to us about exploring how AI can interface with medical offices, and who better to talk to about that than an actual physician. Carl, welcome to the program. Thanks so much for taking the time to share your insights with us.
Well, thanks, Jerry, for having me here. Yeah, it's really great. HITLAB is really a well-run program, and thanks to Stan and the rest of your crew. So just a little background. I'm an ophthalmologist. I do oculoplastics and neuro-ophthalmology. I'm fellowship trained in Anchorage, Alaska. Been here for 30 years. I'm the only oculoplastic surgeon and neuro-ophthalmologist in Alaska since, as far back as the Big Bang. So that goes a long way. But all kidding aside, I was tasked with thinking about AI for our office. And really, when you think about the strategic integration or tactical thinking of integrating AI into an office that's really been traditional. We have a medical record, we have NextGen, we've been doing it for years and years. All the physicians are comfortable. It's a multi-specialty group practice. We have glaucoma, cornea, oculoplastics, neuro-ophthalmology, uveitis, anterior segment. And so we encompass, a lot of specialties within ophthalmology itself. And we take care of the entire state. We have the largest group practice in Alaska. So it was really incumbent upon me to think about this carefully and to really pitch my partners in order to get them on board. And, so the first thing that I thought about is, what is our mission? Really, what is the fundamental mission? And it's patient care. You want to improve the patient experience. You want the patients to be happy. You want them to enjoy coming in, getting taken care of, getting treated, and leaving feeling good about the experience. But we also want to take care of our doctors and our staff and our administration, because if the doctors aren't happy, the practice will degrade. They won't want to come to work. They don't do effective medicine, and that's not good either. So it's a balance. It's a balance. But AI, if you think about it, and this was ignited with ChatGPT, now we have Claude, we have Grok, we have Llama, Perplexity from Meta, Google, all these large trillion-dollar enterprises, and they're all focusing on automation, removing drudgery. And when you focus on the medical office, that's fantastic for the doctors, the staff. Again, improves patient experience. We want to do things better and faster than we could alone. So really, AI, think about AI is you're having a team of really smart, invisible helpers looking over your shoulder. Now, currently, I'm looking at a company called DeepScribe, where it's speech to text. They integrate it into the fields of the medical record. And in a multi-specialty ophthalmology practice, such as ophthalmic associates, this can significantly reduce doctors' time spent on documentation. It can transcribe patient interactions into the EHR, freeing up your time for more patient-focused discussions and care. And patients like when you look at them and talk to them. So the AI can help that. And I'll talk about the cost-benefit analysis in just a little bit, but it really is very interesting. So what else can AI do? AI can also predict your supply needs on the practice management side. It can look at past data. It's recursive and iterative, and that's the beauty of generative AI. I don't have to go dive deep into the machine learning, the neural nets, et cetera, et cetera. I know a little bit about that. I'm not an expert, but you don't want to be overstocked. You don't want to have more items than you need. The resources are precious, and community medical practice such as mine, such as dermatology practice, neurosurgical practice, cardiology, we're basically businesses that treat patients and care for the patients of Alaska.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I think it's such a great sort of overall perspective on where AI is going to be really strategically valuable when it comes to the integration and the interface and around the medical offices. And obviously, you've got a lot of experience on the office side. What are the challenges that you think the biggest that are going to be faced by these organizations when implementing these AI solutions in the current sort of medical settings right now?
Right. The challenges are really massive. And it depends on the complexion of your group. Uh, if your group has younger folks, it'll be a little easier. They're more comfortable with, Instagram, with Messenger, with texting, etc. They grew up on it. Older guys like me, we have to adopt it a little earlier. And that takes a little more prodding and nudging. But what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're capturing the right data, we're tweaking the data so that it does go into the EHR. And as I mentioned, there's a bunch of great vendors out there that are doing that. I talked about DeepScribe as one of them. Um, you know, but there's the human element too. You have to train your staff to get on board. You have to address their fears and their job security issues. There's also, we can't forget about data privacy concerns. We have to ensure that the patient data remains secure. And that's an ongoing battle because people are always trying to get in and steal stuff. There's ransomware, there's malware. You need good vendors. You need to team up with a good IT group or team that manages. So there's a lot of different pieces and there's a lot of challenges. But if you remain focused and you realize that, look, this is coming. This is a revolution. We had the internet revolution, we had social media revolution, we had the mobile phone revolution. Well, now medicine has always last the party, but we're going to have a medical revolution, and we want to be AI first and not traditional. Now, you can remain traditional, but remember companies like Nokia and Blockbuster, and remember what happened to them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's definitely valuable to start thinking about sort of that sort of succession when it comes to implementing AI in this fashion. You talked a little bit about data security and privacy and making sure that we're able to make sure that the data and patient privacy is secure and stuff. That's obviously forming sort of part of the ethical considerations when it comes to these sorts of implementations. But what specifically are sort of those ethical considerations that you see need to be taken into account, and also the measures that need to be put into place as well around sort of data security when implementing AI?
Right. Thanks, Jerry, for that question. So, it starts with patient consent. So just like when I operate on a patient and I'm an oculoplastic specialist, let's say I do a facial fracture, I have to be transparent and open and say, look, this is the good that can happen, but look, there are also potential complications. And so we have to discuss that beforehand so I don't backpedal should a complication occur. Now, they rarely do, but we have to discuss it beforehand. We have to talk about allergies. We have to talk about, using anticoagulants before surgery or stopping them so that we have the best possible success and outcome that we can. We want to set ourselves up for success. And that's the same thing with data security. And that comes with strong encryption, regular software updates, multi-factor authentication. These are all essential. Regular audits, compliance checks are critical to identify and mitigate risks. Your staff has to know what to look for. They have to be trained. And, we have robust data governance. We have a framework in place. We know how the data is collected. We know how it's stored, and we want to use it properly. We want to prevent unauthorized access and misuse. And there are interesting companies out there, and there's one company called MetaBlock, which I looked at, and they're decentralized, and the more data you put in, the more secure it gets. It's kind of like Bitcoin, and it does use blockchain solutions. And I think that it's an interesting concept to think about.
No, that's awesome. I think you made some really relevant points that really need to be considered around that. You mentioned earlier you were going to talk a little bit about sort of the costs and benefits around implementing AI in medical offices and stuff. We'd love to hear more about that. That's obviously the really super important part when it comes to making sure that these offices remain sustainable, of course.
Yeah. So again, thanks for that question. So AI, we believe, or at least I believe, can significantly cut the costs by reducing administrative overhead and minimizing diagnostic errors. So there's two components. So in medicine, you have that risk of malpractice or of making a mistake, an allergic mistake, you miss an allergy, you miss a medication, a drug interaction. That can help because it can go into the chart 30 years, 20 years, whereas it would take me forever, and I just don't have the brain capacity to do that for, if we see 15, 20,000 patients a year, it's hard to know every single detail, but AI can. So it can help reduce the malpractice issues, the insurance issues to cover that, and administrative costs, again, by going into the practice management side and seeing where our resources could be allocated more effectively. Um, you know, uh, Patient satisfaction, streamlined operations also translates into higher revenue and better utilization of your resources over time, because it increases your patient volume. Word of mouth spreads. People know. But so when I did a cost benefit analysis just on the Deep Scribe that I talked about, and I looked at implementing a speech to text software program where I walk in, I say, turn on, I start speaking, and it places my exam and my history taking into the medical record for me, comes up with a referral letter, a patient education letter that goes to the patient's email. I mean, this is all extraordinary stuff. And you have to realize that my payroll is my biggest expense. So if I have scribes for all my providers, we have 9 providers, we have 6 ophthalmologists, optometrists, a PA, et cetera. If I can do away with the scribes and have them do other clinical work, that's, let's say, $45,000, $50,000 a scribe times 6, that's $300,000. The Deep Scribe program cost me, say, $35,000. I mean, you can see where the cost savings occurs.
Yeah.
And that's all part of the equation and a part of the strategic thinking and integration. And this is why I think it's going to be a winner. But again, you have to pitch it correctly to your partners and get them to agree.
Yeah, no, that's also super important as well. And in terms of that, like, how quickly do you see sort of AI technologies right now? If obviously, as with any technology and solution that's being implemented within any sort of system or office, there is always the factor for adoption rates. And what do you think is going to really influence, the adoption and the adoption rates of AI in medical offices in the current sort of climate of healthcare right now?
That's a great question, Jerry. So adoption rates, and this is, for really every industry, and, strategic business planning and development. But I always go back to Everett Rogers adoption curve, or also known as this diffusion of innovations theory. So he was a professor at Ohio State, 1962, brilliant. You had the early adopters, you had that big rise, and then you had a plateau. And obviously, the early adopters are few and far between, particularly in medicine. Medicine tends to lag. Doctors are super smart, intense, driven, motivated people, but there are gaps in their knowledge base. And they know medicine, clinical medicine really well. They can do intricate surgeries, elegant surgeries, but they don't necessarily understand a balance sheet, or they can't see into the future when things are working great right now. Why invest a whole lot of resources, disrupt, my day-to-day work when things are working for something that I'm not sure is really that great? And so that's your job, to convince them that, yes, in fact, it is the future. We're in a revolution and you will enjoy this. It's like convincing folks to get rid of their horse and buggy for a motor vehicle, or to go from a campfire to a microwave. Once you start doing it, you'll forget about the campfire to cook your food. So, the adoption curve, and again, thanks to Professor Rogers, is valid, tends to be reliable, but it will happen. This revolution will happen. And I think, you do want to be in that AI first mindset rather than that traditional mindset, which where, your practice can get steamrolled, or, folks may bypass that for practices that actually have adopted the AI first model.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great way to sort of visually or graphically, almost, if you like, represent, sort of the way that the adoption rates may hopefully go in that sense. And I think it's going to be really super essential, especially with all the pieces that you mentioned around, clinician and physician burnout, and have the patient in mind when it comes to really adopting and implementing this specific technology within the offices. I know we're running out of time here, Carl, so I just want to just sort of wrap up and sort of look to the future and sort of the trends that you're seeing right now in terms of the future role of AI in transforming the medical office and the operations, and most importantly, patient care.
So, Joe, yeah, the future of AI in healthcare is incredibly exciting. I'm going to be a participant. I'm going to convince my group. AI will be a major player. It will have a major role in predictive healthcare, predictive analysis, improving the patient experience, identifying health issues before they become serious, drug interactions, allergies, looking back into the patient chart years and years to, again, have more effective patient care, differential diagnoses. It will look at images for ophthalmology, it's OCTs for diabetic retinopathy, glaucoma, macular degeneration, MRI images, CT images. It'll just do a better job of figuring out the patterns, analyzing it, and coming up with a real good treatment plan. There's three ways that I look at the future. You can take what's available, the OpenAI ChatGPT model. You can customize the model and just kind of white label it with your own logo on it. And I think Epic is doing that. Or you can customize it and create your own AI, which really none of us are going to do. It's just too expensive. We're going to let OpenAI continue that. But I think the customization and the recursive nature and the self-improvement by feeding it more of your own bespoke data from your own practice, your own office, is the way to go, and will convince you that you've made the right decision. Like I said, we want the patient experience to be wonderful. AI will make that happen. We want to make the doctor's life happy. We want to make the staff and administration happy. And in my view, we're going to look back on this in 10, 15 years, and we're going to laugh at the slow adopters. But it's fantastic. I'm glad I'm alive to see it. And thanks for allowing me to give my 2 cents on it, Jerry.
No, I really appreciate your insights, Carl. I know how busy you are, and I think that's a brilliant way to round off this conversation in this specific segment, and hopefully, a real positive outlook into the future of really having that patient-centric focus of why it is essential for the correct implementation of AI within the medical offices. But hopefully have you back on the program soon, Carl. If anyone out there is interested in speaking with Carl, of course, and continuing the conversation, which unfortunately we don't have enough time for, but do connect with him on LinkedIn. Do search for him on LinkedIn with Carl Rosen, and we'll definitely have you back next time, Carl, to continue the conversation around the implementation of AI in medical offices. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Jerry. It's great being here.